Imagine the year is 1587. On the edge of the New World, a small English colony struggles to survive. They've crossed an unforgiving ocean, leaving behind the comforts of England, chasing a dream of riches and glory in the untamed wilderness of North America. This was Roanoke, a colony planted on the outer banks of present-day North Carolina. Led by Governor John White, more than 100 men, women, and children built their fragile community on Roanoke Island. Among them was White's own granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child ever born in the Americas on August 18, 1587. Yet within just 3 years, they would vanish without a trace. When White returned from England in 1590, delayed by war with Spain, he found the settlement deserted, the houses dismantled, the fort abandoned. No bodies, no battle. Only one word carved into a tree. CROATOAN. What happened to them? Did they starve? Were they killed by hostile tribes? Did they merge with friendly Native Americans? Or was something else at play? For over 4 centuries, the fate of the lost colony of Roanoke have haunted historians, archaeologists, and treasure hunters alike. Tonight, we travel back to that dangerous age of exploration to uncover what we know, what we suspect, and why this mystery still lingers in the American imagination. The Roanoke story begins with ambition. By the late 16th century, Queen Elizabeth I sought to expand England's power across the globe. Spain was dominating the New World with its gold, silver, and sprawling colonies. England wanted its share. In 1584, explorers Philip Amadas and Arthur Barlow were sent across the Atlantic by Sir Walter Raleigh, who had been granted a royal charter to establish a colony in North America. They returned with glowing reports of fertile land, friendly natives, and endless possibilities. Raleigh named the region Virginia, after the Virgin Queen herself. 3 years later, in 1587, Raleigh backed a second expedition. This time, not soldiers, but families. The goal wasn't just conquest, it was settlement. John White, a skilled artist and mapmaker, was chosen as governor. Around 117 colonists, including women and children, sailed across the ocean, landing on Roanoke Island in July. It was a bold experiment to plant an English society in a land still wild and untamed. But hope quickly collided with harsh reality. The colonists found the soil stubborn, the supplies limited, and relations with local tribes strained. While some groups, like the CROATOAN, showed signs of friendship, others, particularly the Secatan and Dasamungapunk, were hostile. Conflicts erupted and food became scarce. The settlers looked to Governor White for leadership. But White himself faced impossible choices. He knew the colony could not last without reinforcements from England. And so, only weeks after his granddaughter Virginia Dare was born, White made a fateful decision. He would sail back to England to secure more supplies. It was a journey he dreaded. His family, his colony, his dream, all left behind. But there was no alternative. He promised to return quickly. No one in that fragile settlement could have known that it would be the last time they ever saw their governor, or that the name Roanoke would soon be etched into history as America's first great unsolved mystery. When Governor John White departed Roanoke in late 1587, he intended to be gone for only a few months. His mission was clear: return to England, gather desperately needed supplies, and come back to secure the survival of the colony. But fate had other plans. As White reached England, the nation was gripped by a looming crisis. Spain, England's powerful rival, was preparing for war. In 1588, the Spanish Armada, one of the largest naval forces in history, set sail to invade England. Every available English ship, including those that might have carried White back to his people, was conscripted into the fight. The war raged for years, leaving White helpless. The colonists he had left behind, his daughter Eleanor, his infant granddaughter Virginia Dare, and more than 100 others, were stranded across the ocean, vulnerable and isolated. Finally, in August 1590, after 3 long years, White secured passage on a private expedition and returned to Roanoke Island. But what he found was not the hopeful settlement he had left behind. The fort was dismantled. Houses stood empty, their timbers weathered by time. There were no signs of life, no smoke from fires, no crops in the fields, no voices to greet him. The colony had simply vanished. Yet there were no signs of battle either. No bodies, no destruction, no chaos. Instead, White found 2 cryptic clues. On a fence post, the letters Crow were carved. On a nearby tree, a single word stood out, CROATOAN. To White, this was a deliberate message. Before he had left in 1587, he instructed the colonists to carve a sign if they decided to relocate. If they were in danger, they were to add a cross. There was no cross, only the word CROATOAN, the name of a nearby island, today known as Hatteras Island, and the friendly tribe that lived there. White believed his people had moved south to live among the CROATOAN. But storms battered the coast, and his ships, low on supplies, could not reach the island. Reluctantly, the expedition turned back to England. White never saw the colony again. The trail ended there. An empty fort, a single word carved into wood, and the haunting silence of a vanished people. The question remained, what truly became of the lost colony of Roanoke? From the moment John White reported the disappearance of the Roanoke colonists, theories have swirled like a storm across the centuries. Each idea offers a possible answer, yet none have ever been proven. One of the most enduring theories is that the colonists integrated with native tribes. The clue CROATOAN suggested they may have moved to Hatteras Island to live with the Croatoan people. Oral histories from later tribes spoke of Europeans living among them, and even of children with lighter hair and eyes. Could the colonists have abandoned their struggling settlement and found survival through assimilation? Others believe the story ended in violence. Relations between the colonists and neighboring tribes like the Secatan and Dasamankeponk were tense, even hostile. Some historians argue the settlers may have been attacked, their remains lost to time and nature. There is also the grim possibility of starvation and disease. The land was harsh, supplies were scarce, and the colonists had no lifeline to England. Perhaps they simply withered away, one by one, until there was nothing left. But then, there are the legends, mysteries that blur the line between fact and folklore. In the 1600s, reports circulated of Europeans enslaved by hostile tribes. Others told of strange carvings and stones, so-called Dare stones allegedly left behind by Eleanor White Dare, John White's daughter, detailing the colony's tragic fate. Most of these stones have since been debunked as forgeries, but they kept the mystery alive in America's imagination. Modern archaeology has tried to chase the truth. Excavations on Hatteras Island and the mainland have uncovered fragments of European pottery and weapons, evidence that at least some colonists may have lived on. Yet the findings remain inconclusive, tantalizing but incomplete. And then there are the darker theories, whispers of supernatural forces, curses, or Aryan abductions, born not from evidence, but from the very human need to explain the inexplicable. What we know is this: more than 100 men, women, and children vanished from the pages of history. Their fate is a blank chapter, a silence where answers should be. The lost colony of Roanoke endures not because we know the truth, but because we don't. It stands as America's first great unsolved mystery, echoing across 4 centuries with a single carved word: CROATOAN. A riddle left for generations, still searching for answers. The Lost Colony of Roanoke remains America's first great unsolved mystery, a story of ambition, survival, and silence. A chapter left unfinished, marked forever by a single word carved into wood: CROATOAN.